night, after watching that company walked in, it dawned on me, after years of watching this movie, Danny LaRusso was so upset that night because he did not have any faith in his trainer. The chores had been hard. It didn't make sense to him. And because he couldn't see the big picture, he became angry, resentful, and even disrespectful. And it hit me. That is exactly what can happen to us when we don't understand why we go through such heartaches and hardships. I'd like to share this Bible verse. It's from 1 Peter chapter 5, 7 through 10. Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Standing firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family of believers all over the world is going through the same kind of suffering that you are. In His kindness, God calls you to share His eternal glory by means of Christ Jesus. So after you have suffered a little while, He will restore, support, and strengthen you, and He will place you on a firm foundation. So much can happen to rock our faith. Even our little community has gone through so much. We had a devastating house fire. We had a murder. We kind of had a freak accident with the parade when that car just went into that family and had to be careful of it. That was so scary. And then Kelly just talked about those two boys that were in a severe car accident. And it's definitely easy to lose faith when you are devastated. But at this moment, I'm going to bring up my longtime friend Lacey, and she's going to share with you her story on devastation, faith, and miracles.
Just want you to know I feel really overly dressed right now. Cry, not to ugly cry. Good morning. A lot of you already know me. My name is Lacey Cron.
Mic up, please. Thank you.
I got a big enough mouth, Darcy and I have been friends and worked together for several years. When she asked me to be here this morning, she told me she would be talking about faith and miracles. As parents, most of us probably are parents out here. I believe one of the greatest miracles is seeing your child for the first time. Then, from there, we as believers have faith that God will help us to raise them the right way. My husband Gary and I had 3 children, Brandon, 22, Ryan, 20, and JC, 17. I'm here to tell you that you never know how much faith you really have until it's all you have left. A year ago, Tuesday, June 5th, 2018, was one of the worst days of my family's lives. That day, my son Ryan, who had just graduated 2 weeks earlier from Riverside, and his girlfriend, Abigail, of only 2 weeks, had plans to go on a whole day date. They were going to Bob Evans for breakfast, then to Ohio Caverns to explore, and then on to other things. Neither one of them had ever drove to Ohio Caverns by themselves, so with the help of Abigail's GPS on her phone, they maneuvered their way around the curves and hills of County Road 1, leading to State Route 245 in West Liberty. As they approached 245, with the rain coming down, Ryan drove through the stop sign and was T-boned by a semi, which pushed him across 245 through a ditch and into a tree. We don't know, and probably never will know what really happened that morning. Miracle 1. Within minutes of the wreck, a man who had faith stopped and prayed with the kids until the ambulance got there. Around 1 o'clock, I realized that I had missed a phone call, which was the beginning of the worst day of my life. The voice on the other end told me my son and his passenger were in an accident with a semi. Miracle 2. Ryan was out, but he was awake enough to be able to talk with us. He was transported to OSU for observation. When we got there, due to privacy laws, we weren't able to know anything about Abigail, and we didn't know her family. I had never even met her, and her mom had never even met Ryan. Finally, we were able to talk with her parents, and we went to the other side of the hospital where Abigail was in the SICU. Miracle 3. When we got there, we were welcomed with open arms by our parents. And we all stood in the conference room, held hands, and prayed. They let us know they didn't blame Ryan, and they wanted him to know that they didn't either. As Gary and I talked with them, we learned she had a broken neck and pelvis, a punctured lung, and bleeding on her brain, and never gained consciousness. Soon after, she was put in a medical coma. The next day, Ryan was due to go home. Miracle 4. Ryan only had bumps and bruises and a concussion. But before he was discharged, his nurses and Abigail's nurses made it possible that he would get to go over and see her, since he was in the neck and spine part, and she was on the other side of the hospital. Gary and I tried to prepare Ryan as best we could, because we knew all of her friends and family would be there. What we didn't know was how well they would receive him. You see, even though Abigail's parents didn't blame him, we were not sure how the friends and families felt about him. Miracle 5. We were welcomed by every single person there. And they all hugged Ryan and came up to tell him that they were glad that he was okay. And it was an accident. They didn't blame him either. That's why it's called an accident. When we went back to her room to see her, her mom cleared the room so that Ryan would be able to be alone with her. Over the course of the next few days, things continued to get worse for her. Her parents kept their faith that she would come out of it. On Thursday night, a test was done, and she was declared legally brain dead. There were so many people praying for a miracle for her to wake up. The miracle came, but in a whole different package. You see, Abigail was an organ donor. This 16-year-old girl wanted to help other people. So when she got her license, she signed up to be a donor. The June 7th, 2018, her sweet parents had to make the ultimate decision to take her off of life support, but not before miracle number 6. 3 matches were found, one of which was her cousin who had been on a transplant list for a new kidney for quite a while. They were a perfect match. You see, prayers don't always get answered the way we think they should, but they do get answered. My favorite Bible verse has always been Hebrews 13:5. It says, "He will never leave us or forsake us." Time and time again throughout this whole life-changing experience, he has been there. I pray if you don't get anything else out of my story, I hope you see the through tragedy, even though you may not notice him. When you're knee-deep in what may be the worst day of your life, he is there because his word says he will never leave us. I would like to share Abigail's favorite saying, which is quite appropriate today since it is raining. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It is learning to dance in the rain. Before I go, I would like to encourage each and every one of you to be an organ donor. You never know whose prayers need answered. Thank you.
Have to follow that. So Lacey was bringing the hardship aspect to this. The other thing that I want to discuss, not only do we go through hardship and trials, we also have people and we have all kinds of things out there that are telling us, especially our young people, that you know what? They're trying to disprove God. That there actually even is a God. They bring up all these facts and they try to deter our faith. Actually, this reminds me, just last week, Melina actually came up to me, and she said that somebody she had a discussion with was telling her that Christians can be awful people, that they're very judgmental, and that he has all kinds of proof that the churches are corrupt, and that all they care about is money. Melina is 16 years old, and that's what you guys are going to have to go through. You're going to have to hear these things. I know a lot of people, when they go off to college and they get in those religious and theological classes, you're going to hear all these facts and all these things, and some of them are true. They are true. So how do you disprove that? How do you keep your faith when we have all of this hitting at us? And it doesn't just happen to our young ones. I was shocked to see that there was an article out about a religious author, Josh Harris, who had renounced his faith. Has anybody seen that? He says, go ahead, Deb. He goes on to say, just, putting pastors down, preachers, but after reading this, what really got me is, he tries to say that there aren't many miracles out there. That there aren't many miracles, and he's trying to disprove everything. And so, after I read that article, that became the second part of my message today. Yes, there are miracles. There are tons of miracles that prove that God does exist, and that we are rewarded for our faith. And I am so excited to share some of those with you today. Lacey got us started off on that. One movie clip that I wanted to share with you, in case maybe you haven't seen it, is the movie Breakthrough. This is a true story, and Deb has the trailer there.
Got you. Hey, boys! Get off the ice! Not safe! Ma'am, unresponsive pulse. You want clear?
No pulse.
There's nothing more we can do. This is the most powerful, compelling, verifiable, authenticated miracle story in recent history. Period. Bar none. Joyce Smith?
Yes.
We're doing everything we can for your son, and John's responding. There her son was without a pulse. She touched his feet, they were completely cold. And she said, you know what? I'm not going to claim death, I'm about to claim life.
Send your Holy Spirit to save my son!
When she started going on, he came back to life. I drowned for 15 minutes and I was without a pulse for an additional 25. So in all, I was dead for over an hour.
So far in my life, God had always been and done what he said he could do. And so I just started praying.
Mom came in, she prayed, and instantly I had a pulse.
Everybody that I explain the plot to gets goosebumps just even thinking about that something like this can happen.
It's hard to believe. And I'm part of the story, telling the story, and it's hard for me to believe. one idea. Patient dead, mother prayed, patient came back to life. This is a modern day resurrection story.
When Joyce finally gave that complete surrender to God and said, like, you have to take this, there's no question that something miraculous happened.
It sounds like it's supposed to be good. At best, we have a long road ahead. And I'm not gonna lie to you. We're not trying to take it.
It's not just about one miracle, it's about a series of miracles. Those miracles happened to John and to Joyce and that family, but then, like a ripple in a lake, those miracles just keep moving out. The circle keeps getting wider.
Oh, this is so wonderful. Wow, look at prayers.
Our church and our friends were phenomenal. There was probably 20 people that already started gathering by that evening. There was probably close to 75 to 100 people there, and they were overflowing the waiting room out into the hallway.
We would ride around John and his family in their time of need, people being really selfless and sacrificing their time and resources. The power of the community and power of faith is strong, and something that this world needs all going through.
We had a privilege with 300 people at the church, and to hear people pray and cry out to God for John, I thought this is what heaven is like. This is probably what heaven is like. They just are believing for God, just the spirit of faith. Prayer is the centerpiece of the story. People coming together, praying, believing that God listens and answers our prayers. Simply stated, prayer changes everything.
I think what's amazing thing about this movie is that it had, this isn't fiction.
True stories like this make the case for God. The skeptic will say, man, I don't know. Okay, Marlon, I know you were involved in heaven for real, but okay, I don't believe that. Okay, miracles in heaven, I don't know how she got cured when she fell out of the tree, but no, I don't think so. Ah, man, wow, the kid is alive. Maybe there's something to that.
I come from a family of doctors, and this is one of those stories that the medical community knows, and there's no explanation. I mean, it's truly, in that sense, a miracle.
We rely on doctors, and I think doctors are great. I mean, they're a huge blessing. But there's a time when they say there's nothing else we can do. And I think it's that moment where God's able to step in, and we see his hand.
And the moment she prays, not an hour later, not 5 days later, the moment she prays, every single apparatus on that bike turns on.
No explanation. There's something new.
Now, I get that that's a movie, okay? It does say it's a true story, but maybe it might be hard to still relate to that. So last week, I'm going to bring up my Sunday school class. We also found another true story. She was 13 years old. This is Stephanie Besh, and this did happen years ago. But when she was 13 years old, she was at a pool party. She hit her head, went to the bottom of the pool, and she also was underwater for 30 minutes. The next clip, if you can see it, I put this up here because I love, she actually says she has an out-of-body experience and feels like she did go to heaven. And I love it up there because we all says, it says, I remember brilliant colors. I remember feeling, there was just no fear, and that everything was love and of peace. And our Sunday school class loved that because when we think of heaven, that's exactly what we are thinking that we want to happen. And so I put the picture, go ahead, Deb, up because she is a real person. There she is. She is now a pastor of her own church. That changed her life, changed her faith, and she goes out and spreads the message. So now, you could still be skeptical because she is just on social media. I don't really know that person. You could probably go find her at a church. So, this is it. This is the ultimate truth. Now, you are going to see a real person. Our friend Chad is going to come up, who has one of my all-time favorite faith and miracle stories.
It's been a while since I've been up here, a little rusty. Darcy got a hold of me, I think, last week, and she's like, hey, when she told me what type of service she was going to put on, she's like, will you show up and, give a story for me? I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So usually I work every single Sunday. So it just happened to be when she got a hold of me, I'm off today. What are the odds of that? But anyone who really knows me 7 years ago, I wasn't a church-going person. Kick and scream, do whatever else I want to do, I would not come. Shelley can vouch for that. Bruce the Center probably can too, because you would never see me here. But anyway, it's probably been 7 years ago, I was driving home from work. I worked at Huntington Bank. Same old, complaining to myself about, work. I hate it. Bruce had sent a boys watch my girls for me, so I stopped in there to pick them up. It was around Valentine's Day. So I walked in, sitting there, I told him, hey, get up, let's go. So we stood up, and if anyone has ever been shocked by an electric fence, that's what it felt like. I cannot let go of it. And next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital, and all these doctors are standing around me, looking at me, going over what's this and what's that. And, they're like, oh, it's from lack of sleep. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I sleep more than about anyone you know, so I know that's not the issue at all. So, they're like, oh, going home. They gave me some medicine, so I went home. And, felt all right. Shelley's like, well, hey, I'm going to go to work. I was like, okay, so I'm hanging out at home by myself, and next thing I know, I wake up, and I'm face first on the floor. So I call her up, and I'm like, hey, I'm like, you gotta come and get me because, I had another seizure. And it's a grand mal seizure, like the worst one you can have. So she comes home, I go back to my routine, and the doctor in there was like, hey, there's nothing else we can do for you. So they sent me to Riverside in Columbus. I go in there, and, neurologist comes in, hooks up all the wires to my head, I look like a robot. So they're running all these tests on me, and everything came back perfectly fine. They're trying to get me to have another seizure. So I'm going through, the flashing lights, trying to, just make myself be on the breath, see if they could get it to trip off again. And they couldn't. So, I sat there, and the neurologist was like, well, hey, you have epilepsy. And I'm like, what? I'm like, that's impossible. So then, 20 minutes later, he's a good buddy of mine, Dr. Dorsch came in. I call him Dr. D now. He's like, hey, he's my age, came, walking in, little guy, tan, funny. And he's like, hey, I know what I want you to do. I want you to, just go ahead and do an MRI on you. So I go downstairs at Riverside down in the basement, get an MRI done. Took about, 45 minutes or whatever. And so Shelley, a couple of our friends, Patty, Dust, and Gardner live in Columbus. So Shelley let hey, I'm going to go get cleaned up over at their house, get a shower. So while she was gone, I'm in there, in my room, and another doctor walks in. And he's like, hey, I found out what happened. And I was like, well, what's that? He's like, you have a brain tumor. And I, immediately I'm just like, well, 9 times out of 10, don't if there's, the worst thing, 9 times out of 10, almost always, have some type of physical effect, or they'll kill you, one of the two. And so I'm freaking out. Shelley comes back in, she gets back, and I tell her what's going on. And Dr. Dorvis comes walking in. He's going over everything with me. I'm a wreck. I never was sick, never had the flu. I pretty much thought I was unstoppable. And so, I'm sitting there, I remember plain as day, just like tears rolling down my face. I was like, hey, I got 2 girls, and, whenever all that went through, and he was happy. He was like, what are you worried about? And I looked at him, I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no. He's like, it's not a big deal. He's like, I'll give you the craniotomy, I'll go in, I'll burn it out, put some screws in your head, and you'll be on your way. And anyone who hears that, it's never that easy. So, I had the surgery Shelley, Carrie, and Jenny, Bruce, and Cindy, a good buddy of mine, Jeff, were there. My mom, a lot of my family, almost all my family was there. So I think that surgery might have taken like an hour and 45 minutes. I remember playing this day, when they woke me up, I tried to get up, and he's like, don't let him get up. I was going to try to walk off. And so they kept me down. So anyway, I was there for probably 4 or 5 days, and came back and, I guess it would be the radiologist, he did all the studies on it. And it came back benign, thank God. So they sent me on my way, so I had to take a lot of different medicine. So I had like anti-seizure medicine, medicine controls anxiety, all kinds of different things. So, they're like, oh, you're gonna have to stay home for 2 or 3 months and not go to work. And oddly enough, it was mushroom season. And I didn't even want to go out because, it's like a total shock to your system. Like I said, I've never been sick before ever. And so I was at home one day, and Shelley left for work, and I never listened to, I didn't even know what Shine FM was to save my life. I had no idea what it was. So I remember walking out the back door into our garage, and on the radio, there was some girl speaking, and she's like, hey, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and it's gone. So it sort of stopped me in my tracks. So I was like, man, that's not a coincidence at all. And it was one of those things where it was life-changing for me because, I never really had a lot of faith before that. Pretty much did what I wanted to do. But then, I just thought to myself, like I said, that's not a coincidence. So it pretty much changed my outlook on everything in life. There's more to life than, your own personal aspirations or, I want to do what I want to do. With everything that happened to me, I honestly would go back and change it. I feel it's made me a better husband, a better friend, a better father, a lot of different things. But, it gave me faith is what it did. I never, like I said, I was unstoppable. I thought I was unstoppable before. I, again, did what I wanted to do. And it's just strange how things work out because after that, it was great because everyone in church was sending baked cookies to me, and I was not and then Pastor Carolyn came over all the time. So she'd come over and we'd hang out or talk for about an hour or whatnot. And, so after my conversations with her and getting baptized at Bruce and Cindy's house, I did a full immersion is what I did. So, long story short, a lot of people do question why, bad things happen to good people. But in my opinion, I wouldn't change it. That was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Like Darcy said, which makes me comfortable being that she's sitting behind me, it's not easy. But even after all these years, I still get a frog in my throat talking about it. Faith is a strong thing. My old boss at Huntington, super nice guy, and his name was Mark, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. I always stayed in contact with him all the time. So I text him back and forth like, hey, how you doing, buddy? He'd be like, oh, I'm good. So I was showing Shelley one night. I sent him a text and I was like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to go get my treatment I need tomorrow. And I just was like, all right, cool, no big deal. But his treatment was, he died the next day. So his treatment was going into heaven. So, faith is a strong thing. I think anymore, a lot of people let it go by the wayside, like Dorothy was saying in school. Her friends, some friends, I used to be right there. I was one of those guys like, man, I don't believe in it at all. But, it's, again, like I said, it was the best day of my life and I wouldn't change a thing. And that's where I left it. And again, try to be the best Christian, best person I can. I'm human. I sin every day. I'll be the first one to admit that. But at least now, when I do it, it stops me when I think to myself, hey, I shouldn't be saying that or doing that. And that's one thing that's taught me. And like I said, to be a better husband, father, and friend. And that was it.
Oh, I love Chad's story. First of all, it's a relief to me because, as he said several years ago, he didn't always believe, and he would come up to me at times and he would challenge me. And remember, this Chad would always be like, "Hey, what's up with the Holy Spirit? How do you explain that? Hey, what's this Trinity stuff? Well, that didn't make sense." And I'd be like, "I don't know, Chad." So now, yes, he has an awesome story, and now he comes up and says, "Hey, have you heard this? Or how do you feel about so and so?" And relationships change with that. I was just thinking, I actually should have ended with Chad. He's such a fabulous speaker. But I do have another miracle for you. I told you today was going to be long, but I'm just going to bombard you with these miracles and these messages and just fill up your hearts. So, who can tell me, who is this? Raise your hand if you know who this is. Everybody say, who is this? Who is it? It's Mrs. Ben. Raise your hand if she's one of your favorite teachers. She is. Actually, this picture of her and her husband Brant were taken from, she had won Teacher of the Year award this year. Yes? Carol.
My former student.
Okay. She was groomed by Aunt Carol. She's taking credit for it. Christina, you guys might not know this, she gave me permission to share her story. She also has a miracle. So it starts out, she wrote down, "I gave birth to my second daughter, Courtney Elizabeth Mann. However, during the first month, she started having feeding difficulties and major outbursts from pain. My husband, Ray, and I had to make many trips to the pediatrician, Dayton Children's Medical Center, and Nationwide Children's Hospital, and attempted to find out what was wrong with her. She was not gaining weight, and the outbursts kept getting worse. It even got to the point that when she would see a bottle coming towards her, she would scream and cry as if my husband and I were trying to poison her. One outburst in particular scared both my husband and I. We'll never forget how she clenched tightly onto my husband's shirt, looked up at him with severe pain in her eyes, as if she were calling to him for help. My husband and I broke down knowing that the only thing we could do at that moment was to hold her and love her. After a couple more days of finding bottles and eating next to nothing, Courtney was laying in my arms when her body suddenly became limp and her eyes were back into her head. Her body was shutting down. She was malnourished and losing weight fast, but still would not eat. Courtney was admitted to Dayton Children's Hospital, where we stayed for 1 week, and then we had to make many more trips to Dayton and Nations Children's Hospital. I could not begin to count how many trips that we made, sometimes 3 to 4 times a week. But about the third day in the hospital, my husband and I were exhausted. Our nurse and her nurse's aide came into our room. The nurse took Courtney's vitals and left, but Rachel, the aide, was asking if she could help us with anything, if we needed something. But our normal response was always no thanks. But she did not leave. She stayed and then asked if she could pray over Courtney. I was so shocked, but so grateful at the same time. All I could do was shake my head, yes, and of course I cried. Rachel placed her hand on my shoulder and said a very nice long prayer, which gave us a sense of peace and comfort as she stayed, and then she talked to us about Courtney and God. Then after about an hour in the hospital room, she left. My husband and I were both changed. The truth is, we had not even stopped long enough to think about God, or even ask for his help. After Rachel had spread her Christian love and action to us, my husband and I started to turn to God for everything. Well, I have to tell you, before we left the hospital, I wanted to give something back to her. I wrote her a thank you note, including in it, Jesus loves you and so do we, with a cross that my grandpa had made. I asked my husband to take it to the nurse's station, which was right outside our hospital room, so they could give it to Rachel. The receptionist said, "There's no Rachel on this floor." My husband told her that she was our nurse's aide on Wednesday, and the receptionist said that she had worked on Wednesday, and she knew there was not a Rachel here. So she asked some of the other nurses that worked at the station, but they all just looked puzzled, trying to figure out who Rachel was. We gave the receptionist the note with the cross anyways, and told them that if they come across her, to please make sure she gets it. They said they would hold on to it, but they really had no idea who this person was. And that's when another nurse listening in, she piped up and she said, "You know we get angels in here all the time, right?" After that, we never questioned who Rachel was because we had our answer. God knew we needed an angel in the hospital that day to give us comfort and peace to make this difficult time with our baby girl. I'll tell this to you if I respond to that. So of course my first response after she had given me this was awesome. But then my next thought was, why can't everyone have an angel story? Why can't everyone have a miracle to save their children? But if you think about it, if they wouldn't have gone back to thank that lady, they wouldn't have realized she was an angel. She was just a person. We don't know who's in our lives. And if we think about it, we go back, maybe we haven't picked up on the small miracles that have actually saved our children's lives. So I have one last favorite one, and that was Mr. Evan Kaufman sitting back there. He's like, "What?" So if you guys don't know, Evan had some heart difficulties when he was born, and he had to have heart surgery. And Kelly was reminding me last night that when Evan went into surgery when he was a baby, they had to stop his heart, so he had to be put on a lung and a heart machine. And the doctors had reformed her and the family that he should only be on that for 7 to 8 minutes, because anything longer could end up with brain damage or even paralyzed. So after the surgery, they came out and they talked to him, and they realized that Evan was on that machine for over 20 minutes. He was on it for over half the time that he was supposed to be. So if you look back at Mr. Evan Kaufman, he's a nice, big, strapping, handsome young man. He actually became a runner. So no mirrorless, no problems there. And that young man can write like nobody's business. So no brain damage there either. So sometimes we just have to go back and we just have to look and search. And if you think that you can't find anything, then I hope that you realize all the things that we shared today. I have one more thing that a friend posted on Facebook that touched me that I want to end with. Her name is Brooke, and she talks about how she ended up with multiple sclerosis. And if I can see it, it says, "I've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. During an emotional night with my husband, I decided that I was going to do everything I could to keep my body strong. I dove a little deeper into yoga, practicing every day. My balance, strength, energy, and clarity of mind started to improve. All of these things have led me to become a yoga teacher. So this is how I end my story on this note, and this is how I want to end this message, guys. Bad things in life happen, but sometimes those bad things will push you to achieve things you never thought you could." So if my acolytes will get ready, and you guys have been sitting for a while, I would like for you to stand, and we're going to have